Can you please tell us about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Sven Harmeling. I'm working as Team Leader International Climate Policy with German Watch, which is an environment and development NGO from Germany.
Okay. So there's a report that German Watch recently published. Can you please tell us some key conclusions of that report?
Today we published this year's edition of the so-called Global Climate Risk Index. This is a ranking of countries which analyzes the impacts of extreme weather events of the last year and of the last 20 years. We are publishing this annually at the COP. And in this year, for this year's analysis, the most affected countries for 2011 have been Thailand, Cambodia and Pakistan. For the analysis of the last 20 years, Honduras, Myanmar and Nicaragua were most affected from extreme weather events.
Okay, so how can countries prepare for such events? How can you? Are there any recommendations that are in the report?
Yeah, I think there are a number of lessons learned from many countries because many countries have started to take action. For example, I know from Bangladesh there are many examples where flood shelters have been built or storm shelters where people can really hide from a storm once a storm is coming. Also informing people about the risks of a coming storm, of a coming flood is quite important. If we look at countries like Pakistan, I realize that preparing for disasters is quite important. Pakistan has been hit very hard last year and even harder the year before. I think Pakistan has also set up a ministry for climate change, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's a very good step because it can help better understanding the challenges from climate change.
So in the current scenario, in the current international negotiations, are there any sort of mechanisms that are being discussed that can be implemented in developing countries which can help the developing countries respond to these risks?
I think the findings of our report feed quite well into the discussion that is going on here in Doha at COP18. There is a specific work program and serious discussions here in Doha starting about conclusions on what to do on loss and damage from climate change, from extreme weather events, but also from other risks like sea level rise, glacial melting, etc. And here in Doha, or before Doha, almost 100 developing countries have made different proposals for how an institutional approach, an international mechanism on loss and damage could look like, which includes improvement of assessing loss and damage, but also issues of how rehabilitation of loss and damage where adaptation is no more possible can be addressed. So I hope that Doha comes up with a very big step forward for addressing loss and damage under the convention.
Right. And what sort of implementation measures can countries take to implement such measures on large scale?
Yeah, I think there are many challenges. We only looked at the extreme events. I mentioned some examples of what you can do in concrete terms. Developing appropriate policy planning on all levels, on national level, on local level, is quite important because you have to understand the local risks from extreme events, you have to understand what you can take, and many investments, for example, which are being made into infrastructure, they have to be adapted to climate change. So it's a lot of challenges from national planning, from concrete action on the community level, and of course it's also important to see how international financial support can support these activities.
Okay. Thank you.